Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Um, okay, the silence you've been interpreting as disinterest is actually something more complicated. And the gap between what you think is happening and what's actually happening is creating unnecessary pain on both sides. Because you're reading their distance as evidence they don't care, and they're creating distance because they care too much to handle it carelessly. Let me decode what withdrawal sometimes actually means. When someone pulls back, the immediate interpretation is simple. They're not interested anymore. They got bored, found someone else, realized you're not what they want, changed their mind. And sometimes that's exactly right. Sometimes distance means disinterest. Sometimes people pull back because they're checking out. But other times, more often than you'd think, distance is protection, not of you, of themselves. Of the thing between you that feels too fragile or too intense or too important to risk through clumsy handling. Some people withdraw when they start caring because caring feels dangerous, makes them vulnerable, gives someone else power to hurt them. And they've been hurt before in ways that taught them retreat is safer than risk. So when feelings intensify past comfortable, they create space, not because they want space, because they need it to process what's happening internally without the pressure of your presence amplifying everything. You might be experiencing someone's silence as rejection when it's actually overwhelm. They're not losing interest, they're losing their ability to stay casual about you. Let's pause here. This reflection invites you to consider, have you been assuming someone's distance means they don't care when it might mean the opposite? Maybe their texts got shorter, their responses slower, their availability more limited. And you interpreted that as fading interest when it might be them trying to manage feelings that are getting too big to pretend are small. Some people can only handle vulnerability in doses. They need to retreat periodically to regain composure, to remember who they are outside the gravitational pull of someone they're starting to orbit. And that retreat looks identical to loss of interest from the outside. You can't see the internal wrestling, can't witness the conversation they're having with themselves about how much to let you in, can't access the fear that's driving the distance. You just see the distance and fill it with stories about what it means. Stories that almost always center on you not being enough rather than them being scared of exactly how much you are. This reflection invites you to consider, when someone pulls back, do you assume it's about your inadequacy or their fear? There's something specific about what might actually be happening beneath the surface you're seeing. They might be testing themselves, seeing if they can stay away, trying to determine whether what they feel is real or just proximity creating illusion of connection. Some people don't trust their own feelings. They've been wrong before, mistook intensity for compatibility, confused chemistry with actual fit, and they're trying to not repeat that mistake by creating distance to see if the pull remains or evaporates. If feelings disappear when you're not around the person, they were probably just situational, based on convenience or loneliness or timing rather than genuine connection. But if feelings persist or intensify during separation, that's different information. That suggests something more substantial than proximity based attraction. So they're testing, and you're experiencing the test as abandonment, as proof they don't want you, when really they're trying to determine whether they want you for real or just want the idea of you, or maybe they're protecting you. They know they're not in position to give you what you deserve. They're dealing with things internal or external that make them unavailable for real relationship, even though they feel real things. So they pull back rather than drag you into situations they can't handle well, rather than offer you half presence when you deserve full attention. Some people call that self sabotage, and sometimes it is, but other times it's actually consideration. Knowing yourself well enough to recognize when engaging would be unfair to someone you care about. This reflection invites you to consider: if someone pulled back to protect you from their inability to show up properly, would you prefer that or messy half commitment? Let me describe what conflicted interest actually looks like. It's not clean. It's not the clear yes or clear no that would make your life easier. It's the uncomfortable middle space where someone wants you and fears wanting you simultaneously. They're drawn to you and terrified of what that draw means, excited by you and panicked by the implications of that excitement. Wanting more and convinced more will destroy them. And that conflict creates erratic behavior: hot and cold, present then absent, engaged then withdrawn, not because they're playing games, because they're genuinely torn between competing drives. The part that wants you pulls them close. The part that fears intimacy or commitment or vulnerability pushes them away. And you're experiencing the push-pull without seeing the internal war that's creating it. Some people interpret this as manipulation, as someone deliberately keeping them off balance to maintain power. And sometimes that's accurate. But other times it's just someone being genuinely confused about what they want and what they're capable of, not malicious, just conflicted, and expressing that conflict through behavior instead of words because they don't have words for it yet. This reflection invites you to consider: can you tell the difference between someone playing games and someone genuinely confused about their own feelings? There's something important about what you might be missing while focused on their distance. You might be so focused on what they're not doing that you're not noticing what they are doing. The small gestures, the subtle ways they stay connected even while creating space. They might still watch your stories, still like your posts, still maintain low-level contact that keeps the thread alive even when they're not actively engaging. That's not disinterest. That's someone who can't fully commit, but also can't fully let go. Someone who's maintaining connection in the only way they can manage right now. Or maybe they're mentioning you to mutual friends, asking about you indirectly, keeping tabs without direct contact because direct contact feels like too much pressure. Some people express care through sideways channels when direct expression feels too vulnerable. And if you're only looking for direct evidence, you'll miss the indirect signals entirely. Or maybe they're dealing with things they haven't told you about: personal struggles, family crises, work stress, mental health challenges, things that consume their capacity for connection without actually changing how they feel about you. And you're interpreting their absence as commentary on your value when it's actually just reflection of their current capacity. Let me address what you might need to do with this uncertainty. First, ask directly. Not, why don't you like me anymore, but I've noticed you've been distant. What's going on for you? Give them space to explain without assuming you already know the explanation. Let them tell you their truth instead of filling silence with your fears. Second, set boundaries around what you need. You can care about their internal process while also being clear about what you require to feel secure. I understand you need space, but I also need clarity. Can you tell me what space means? Are we pausing or are we ending? Some people will give you that clarity, others won't be able to because they don't have it themselves yet. Third, decide what you're willing to wait for and for how long. You don't have to sit in indefinite uncertainty while someone figures themselves out. You can give time without giving unlimited time. Can be patient without being a placeholder while they explore other options or work through their ambivalence. Fourth, trust yourself more than you trust their mixed signals. If someone's behavior makes you feel unstable, that matters regardless of what they claim to feel. Impact matters more than intention. How they make you feel matters more than what they say they feel. You remain in complete control of whether you wait for someone to get clear or move forward without them. You can give space or require presence, accept uncertainty or demand definition. The power is yours. It always has been. You may notice reading this has brought up hope about someone whose distance you've been interpreting as rejection. Maybe relief that there might be other explanations. Maybe frustration that even positive interpretations still leave you in uncertainty. Whatever it is, honor it, take what resonates, softly release the rest. Trust yourself. Before we close, I want to ask you something. If someone told you their distance was about their fear rather than your inadequacy, would that change how you feel about waiting for them? Drop it in the comments. And this is understanding why someone's distant worth the continued uncertainty, or do you need clarity more than you need reasons? You think they lost interest, but here's how they really feel about you. They feel conflicted, scared, drawn to you, and terrified of what that draw means. Wanting more and convinced they can't handle more, creating distance not because you matter less, but because you're starting to matter too much. But their internal conflict isn't your responsibility to resolve. Their fear isn't yours to manage. Their uncertainty doesn't obligate your patience. Not eventually. This is happening now. Trust yourself with this. Trust that you deserve someone who's clear about wanting you, even if they're scared. Trust that confusion can be genuine without being acceptable indefinitely. Trust that you can understand their process without having to wait through it. See you in the next one. And listen. Someone's fear of intimacy might explain their distance, but it doesn't excuse leaving you in perpetual uncertainty while they figure themselves out. Require clarity. Set timelines. Their feelings might be complicated, but your needs are simple.